So there's 17 proposals in the in this package that are coming together that they're kind of doing these separate. I don't want to take up too much time because I know I did you before and explain the proposal. I'm here to answer any additional questions that you might have about the proposals. Because what we're really trying to do is to make sure that we get from every people, just to make sure that you're on record and saying, whether you support this proposal or not. Even if you vote no, or if you have yes or conditions or no conditions, or just outright no. Things just, I want to make sure that you all have a chance to get voices heard and be on the record so that the city planning commission can actually knows how community board of all feels about this text. So just zoom through the presentation, go through it's like the high level goals again and just share what the goals are. So decarbonize our energy grid to allow for like more things like rooftop solar, parking lots with solar canopies, allow for a solar program, maybe for energy storage to be on site for buildings, and then also to accommodate more.
Hold on one second. Let's give the thing that she can't hear him well. So maybe Carlos was wow. Basically, when somebody's closer to the mic. Yes.
I'm not able to.
Here, I'll slow it down. Straight. Put you in the door here. He's moving closer to the mic. Hopefully that will help.
Okay, is that better? Well, let me know if it isn't as loud and we can try to speak a little louder. So yeah, back to so that was our first goal, what we wanted to accomplish with the zoning text. The second one would be to decarbonize our building stock. And our proposals include electrification retrofits, building exterior retrofits to make sure that, if you wanted to improve like the facade and the cladding on the building, that that is kind of like your floor area, which might prevent you from being able to take on a project like that. And then also improving floor area to ensure that we're better than code ordinance for buildings. Third goal will be to, we also wanted to include some proposals to help decarbonize our vehicles. So to allow for more things like electric vehicle charging ports and more electric vehicle charging in building like parking lots, for example, and allow for things like automated parking, bike parking too, so that we can incorporate more environmentally friendly ways to get around the city in our buildings. Again, removing those zoning barriers so that we can embrace some of these new things. And then the last goal is to decarbonize our waste streams. And that would involve allowing for and encouraging more forest paving, street trees, and changing the regulations around street trees so that they're a little bit more flexible for building owners. And to allow for composting, because in the 1961 zoning resolution, that's old as it didn't even have a charter for composting, so we want to be able to change that. And we also want to allow for more rooftop greenhouse to apply. So I'm going to leave this slide up. This is just a summary of all the proposals. And again, I thank you for your considerations, and I'm happy to take any questions you have, because I really want to make sure that, again, you get your voices heard and can come to a vote. We have enough information that you feel comfortable, voting on it, one way or the other.
Yeah, and maybe Nate, you want to talk a little about the composting, curbside composting that's coming back to the Bronx in 2024, right? It's already
That's already a done deal, right?
Right,
And
that,
it's
that
been
was, yeah, that was a state law, I think that's, the Department of Sanitation would be, in charge of that, but that's, separate from this as well. This would allow for, more sites to be able to, like, take that composting too. So once they remove it from the curb, when you put it out on the curb, as we'll have to be able to do, starting next year, then, there's gonna have to be a place where that has to be stored too. So we need to be able to think about like where that's gonna go. And our current zoning just doesn't say that.
So the zoning doesn't address where a plant would go that would deal with the compost?
Right, it's really difficult to cite those in places because based on how our zoning is currently written, you have to just like try to determine, it's like, if the zone, or it makes sense for, if this is zone allowed for, composting facility. It's not sure that way we want to fix it so that it's more clear, so like this site could qualify to it.
So about cabbage and so that is part of composting. So are we sort of something like incineration?
The big plans,
Yes.
already like covered under our, there's a district that it can fall into, I think, and I'm not sure if,
So in a couple,
they can be pretty, it's like a lot of poor air quality to it, so I'm not sure if that's, you want to like encourage more, but it's, I think it's kind of like already covered under, our zoning is written already.
Does someone on the WebEx have a question?
I don't see any.
Any in the chat?
So this is the buildings, I mean, who's responsible for the costs?
Would be the building owner, and I know that's was a concern, and I've been hearing that a lot, that it's, there is a real high cost to these projects, and the concern is that some tenants are gonna pay for it, one way or the other, right? Because of local law 97, to start to be fines for buildings that don't comply. I think the minimum threshold for those buildings, like 25,000 square feet, any buildings that are larger than that are gonna have to comply with this local law that was passed in 2021. And I know that sort of puts building owners in like between this like rock and a hard place, and that's what we're trying to help with this zoning text amendment, is so that there aren't zoning barriers to being able to, take on this project, but then the funding also becomes the big issue. So it's the NYC Accelerator. It's it was help from the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice. They can connect folks to city resources. There's also state resources through NYSERDA. And I'm not sure how much funding is available out there, and I'm sure there needs to be more. But I would say that that's certainly something that should be included, like every comments, submit your letter that there needs to be an increase in funding for these projects, because we want people to take these on, because the benefits that they'll bring for our air quality and for tenancy, like install solar panels that can bring electric down. So, but of course, if they're building owners who get fined if they don't comply, or if they take on these really expensive projects, it just be like, the cost would probably be passed on to, and so we want to, connect folks with as many resources as possible. And if we need more, then I guess we need to demand resources, but that's not really connected to the zoning rules.
Nate, can you just make sure everyone is aware of what local law 97 is? Because if all these initiatives are happening at the same time, that's going to have an impact on building owners' costs as well.
Right, I think it's, if you've seen those new like letter grades that are on like buildings now, that they get like a letter grade, like how you would see the restaurant. I think that was one of the things that came from Law 97 as well. It was, just trying to really assess like our building's impact on the environment and to encourage building owners to make their buildings more environmentally friendly and break down their impact to achieve carbon neutrality. So to have building owners comply with that, there is going to be fines that I believe start in 2024. They'll escalate over time, the longer the buildings don't comply with it. And again, I think there was some timing issues here with like when COVID happened after the law passed. It was, I guess, there was sort of a lag time that building owners from being able to take on these projects right away because you were in the pandemic and had economic issues and supply chain issues from that. So, but I think that's what just like essentially like what local law said, it's a law that's trying to get large building owners to comply with, to try to get them to make their buildings more environmentally friendly. And that's one of the reasons why we're trying to pass this tax amendment to eliminate those barriers to help those projects.
I have a question in the chat. Someone Dickerson, will the board get a copy of this presentation?
Oh, yes.
Yes, yeah, I have it. I mean, I sent it to the committee members, but I can send it out to the office and have them send it out for the full distribution.
My question is, aside from, you call me, but you call me Pete. It makes life a whole lot easier. Aside from different community boards, what other organizations have you presented this to?
Well, I personally, just as passing this along, but our, the team that we've, at our agency that's been working on this and formulating the proposals, they've done a lot of outreach in, last year. They reached out to a lot of the, like really big environmental justice organizations and, they got a slide that captured it here that, there was, they also held some information session, but these proposals were developed like hand in hand with a lot of the subject matter experts that, know a lot about, climate change, they know about climate science, they're engineers, running all the really big work. If, are really like trying to drive this work forward, they were, process, in helping develop these, proposals. Especially like urban green council is one of the big ones. This was the slide I was looking for. Urban green council was there. I think they held their to talk about these as well. Also had a couple of public information sessions too. And that was another thing I want to talk about with the other text amendments that I said are coming. There's some coming up and I'll share that information.
So can you just walk me through the nuts and bolts in a little more detail? So there are bunches, 17 to be precise, proposals in here. So do we provide feedback on all 17 in one big chunk? Or do we get to pick and choose and say, like that one, but not that one?
It's up to you. If there's ones that you concerned with, or whatever ones you feel strongest about, I think because this letter will be going to the city planning commission, they want to, make sure that they want to take all the community board's comments and, in consideration when they vote. So, if there are proposals that you do like and support, then absolutely, you could put that in there, and of course, anything that you have. Okay, that should include, so.
Okay, So I'd like to hear feedback from both the people in this room and the people on the phone. Could you just pull up page, I think it's 16 again, the one that shows all 17? Right, it's, yeah. So people are the so do people have any specific comments about any of the 17 items? Do you have feedback about all 17 taken as a chunk? Who was
So
some,
honestly, Mr. Margaret, that's my initial question, is that it's not that anyone doesn't want to be engaged, of course, everyone wants to be more environmentally friendly. That's awesome. So programs like the accelerated program, that's helping with one aspect of this. Are there other alternatives for financial assistance to make this happen? In terms of retrofitting, or even the creation of.
Well, there's the accelerator and also there's, at the state level, NYSERDA, I believe has resources. I'm not super, I'm super informed about like exactly what those resources are, like how much money they have available. I'm sure there might also be federal assistance as well. But if, I encourage that to be like one of the comments so that gets added to the chorus of voices that are, calling for more resources to be able to take on these projects. But it's, hopefully it's not like a barrier for, when you decide to vote on this. And because I'll say like, when you vote, you're voting on just like these proposals. And, I would just say like, if you support the proposals, but you want to see more funding, but then it should be, a comment. It's not something that the proposals are not, that you don't support the proposals because of the it's
She can't hear?
That's what you're saying, like, it would be deterrent.
right.
No, we're just asking, like, is that already a part of it?
I'm on the phone because I couldn't get in. on the
Like in
computer.
the last slide of this presentation,
The thing, I don't know. I don't know how to do it.
which these are not resources already available for reasons that they.
Try to do it.
So I wanted to,
All
know,
right.
in this presentation, was that already counted?
Yes, that I want to include the accelerator, and I have, links to their, to their website so you can look into it, or I'll share those again.
Awesome.
okay, so basically, if we voted in favor of this, we're not saying go out and do this. We're just saying we're creating an infrastructure where it becomes possible. But I assume our local elected politicians, for example, city council, would still need to say, let's go start putting roof gardens on buildings, for example.
Right. That's, yeah, that's what, that's what zoning is about, not going to require it. Like I said, local law 97 is more the enforcement side of it, but this just allows for greater possibilities, for these environmentally friendly projects based on, to make it easier than how it would be able to do it. So, one of the examples was for the solar canopies on parking lots. There's very few of those in the city right now because you have to get a special permit for those. So there's a whole process to get approved just for that. It seems that, more like commonsensical type of projects. And yes, we want more solar, and here's a great place to put it. But there's this, barrier that's in the way from allowing people to actually do it, that that adds like cost and time. People just say, oh, I don't deal with that. So we want to eliminate those types of barriers so that, yes, you can do that. But again, it's 50, so the funding, but I think this proposal is about many. That's just one of the, one of the things.
Okay, I guess I'm still a little fuzzy on voting in support of these 17 items. Where will people be mandated to implement them versus just have the way cleared for them to implement them?
So, I think if, I mean, like to proposals mandate, they, not necessarily, they would mandate like certain like locations in the building, in buildings, for example, like if, for like energy storage is probably a good example for that. It would tell building owners like where exactly in the building, like that, those types of, devices would like be allowed. But in terms of like requiring, saying like every building has to have, energy storage in it, that's not wouldn't require that. Does that help?
Yes.
So there are some like, regulations and some guidance for like some of these, so like, and the rooftop solar will, tell you like just how much clearance you would have to have, on the rooftop, so it would regulate that, but it's, like much stricter than how it's today, and to allow for like more area as well.
Okay, so for example, remember, the city wouldn't come in and say, you have to rip up your sidewalk or your driveway and replace it with permeable.
Not, just make it so that it's, it would be encouraged for new development, so that, any new buildings would, install, porous paving or different types of like street trees with like bioswales, like that. So,
Neat. So I'm looking at these, solar and building rooftops, currently what's being proposed. So the height actually is about up to 6 feet. And it's actually proposed to get up to about 15. Is that correct?
but
And that will be about 20.
20 and 21.
Well, yeah, it would allow up to 15 feet, so it doesn't necessarily they have to go to 15.
Are we considering the safety of the building, one, and the safety of individuals? Because let's see, then each building has to have insurance. What's the benefit of insurance on that? Because they want to know what something happens, I will be covered. So how do we take that into consideration? The cost of covering that. I think that's going to be a liability.
So, yeah, so this proposal, again, like one of the partners who actually, weighed in on this and helped develop these proposals, it was the fire department. They made sure that this recommendation in particular was crafted with the fire department in mind, with their input on what they think would be for them for a safe solar arrangement on so it was definitely, again, like when we talk to the experts that actually like do this and know about it, we don't want any these arrangements to be dangerous or a safety hazard or a liability for building owners. So we make sure that what we're allowing, that we want to allow, are safe as possible. So.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else have questions here about the pros and cons of voting in favor, voting against this package of proposals? Anybody in the room? No?
The additional comment, I mean, voting is okay, the additional comment that we talk about, that's a cost and funding, so.
Yes, capture,
Yeah,
yeah, it's, the cost is a concern.
So let me ask, is this, option? So when it's proposed, is it an option for the community? Or is this something mandatory, they will have to use solar panels?
No, this is the option, it's just, it just makes it easier to like be able to take on some of these projects, so it doesn't force anything. Like I said before, it was, there's some regulations to solar panels so that they make sure that they're safe, and make sure that things are located in parts of the buildings that would present like a safety issue, but it doesn't force those neighbors to do anything. So.
Okay, does anyone on the WebEx have questions or comments? Okay, so does everyone on the committee feel they have enough information to have a vote on this?
Hala, it's Carmen. I couldn't, I don't know, it wasn't clear what he was saying.
That's right.
I could hear you better, so I don't know if his mic is not right,
Well, I'm using my
but,
outside.
you know, I was able to hear you. But I wanted to say that I have solar in my home.
I'm sorry, I don't.
My
Okay, so what Carmen said is
Okay.
she's already
I think I'm
installed.
having problems with my mic too. So anyway, just
Yeah, I can hear you. So Carmen was saying she's already installed some solar panels on her house. Do you have anything to share about how that's worked for you? Did it save you money? Did it cost you money? How did it all work out?
Okay.
it has saved money, but sometimes we don't understand who's gonna get paid what. Con Edison, you know, with Con Edison.
If I may, can I came in a little late, so, can I ask a question
This is
about structures that they put on
it sounds
these?
bad.
I mean, they're somewhat of a, I'm not quite sure if they can be done any better, but folks who have flat roofs, I see they tend to have these chicken coop-like looking structures on top of the homes. And I mean, aesthetically, I know we're trying to save some money here, but aesthetically, they're quite unattractive. Not quite sure if anyone has spoken to that as to whether or not something better can be done than what I'm seeing. Because to have these things sitting there, if 5 homes has those things consecutively on top of them, those things are not very aesthetically pleasing to any community. You know, and I'm not quite sure if anyone who's installing these things or the companies who are installing them think about whether or not how someone would want their community to look. And I find them, not very
Attractive.
home. I mean, those people who have pitched roofs, I think they're fine because they sit on the roof and they look absolutely fine on those roofs.
Yeah.
Flat roofs have these very large structures sitting on top of it. And I'm not quite sure if anyone who has a home who has done those large ones, I'm not quite sure what they think of them and how they look on the roofs.
Oh, I see.
Me? would these be the devices that capture the electricity and store them? And
Is it,
oh, just the phone. It's like a chicken. It's like, exactly.
Looks like that.
You're from the be square.
Design, you have different perspectives of design.
That right there, that's on a,
We can't hear you clearly, sir. It's like Ms. Ortiz mentioned before, we cannot hear you clearly when you speak.
that right there is on a big building, it's different than if it's on a private house. You know, like there's a house on my block and it has a flat roof and it's a pitch thing, it's like this.
Oh, okay.
It's pitched and it has like a rack, you know, like a rack. Yeah, so
It is sort of like that.
right. It's like that, but, you know, I'm not on this committee, but right, my question is this, it seems that this is more applying to larger buildings? Or was it applying to living homes as well, you know, so up here, when you're up here, these are mostly private homes up here.
right,
So the effect is different than if you have a lot of big buildings. You understand what I'm saying?
yeah,
You know, I'm listening, I don't have this book that they have, but I'm listening and I'm saying, well, is this more applying to larger, big buildings? Or how does the private home that we live in, how does this affect us?
right. So that's a good question. I know that, there's more houses here than large, apartment buildings, just like large buildings in general in this board. So, there are some like this, the rooftop solar here is, you can see there's the proposal also takes into account like smaller houses to allow for, a solar arrangement like this. Instead of just having panels flat on the roof, I believe, which is like, what's currently allowed. You can allow them to kind of slope outwards like this, so you have more coverage area. It allows for, I think, more capture of solar energy. So, that's one proposal for that we've done, for like smaller houses. Yeah, also for like, small houses, flat roofs. Still apply, but some of the other proposals are, pretty, like I said, they're pretty much for larger buildings, larger buildings, would be more compliant, but even smaller buildings, if they wanted to do like redo the facade of a building, for example, to provide like, greater insulation, for an house, I think, that would also affect smaller households.
Excuse me, may I speak?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Cherie Braxton. In my neighborhood, my neighbor has, but they look like it looks like the solar panels are up on stilts. It's not attractive at all. I mean, it looks like a strong hurricane wind can knock them off. I don't know if that's true or not, but it doesn't seem to be that secure to me. And it's up so high, it kind of frightens me because if it falls, it's gonna kill someone. I don't understand why they can't make it look a little better or make it different so it can look more attractive on our houses, on the flat roofs.
It's not a question.
That's all.
Sorry, she's finished.
Okay, thanks.
Around the, 5 boroughs, are these proposals all over New York City? Like how many are in each borough?
Yes, this is a citywide, zoning text amendment, so this would apply to the entire city.
The other thing, I know because I was considering solar panels, the minute I told them I had flat, they just cut me off. They said, we don't want to do, we're not on flat roofs. That's, maybe they've changed now. It's yes. You know, and the young ladies concerned about how it looks. I'm in insurance. And we're concerned about something like that because what was that, Hurricane Ida or whatever that name was? I'm telling you myself, if Ida comes through and they got those things, but they blown off.
That's what I think, yes, absolutely.
I was just, well, let's keep our insurance. No.
And in saying that, my question then becomes, when you address this and say, well, let's do this and how we want to do it, did you also have a conversation with someone that deals in insurance? Because they're the ones that's going to be paying out, should something take place. So were they addressed? Because we can always talk to the fire department. The fire department said, oh, it's fine, you can put it up there, it's okay. But then when it gets blown off, it's not the fire department, it's, you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm all for environmental protection. I'm all for carbon, being lessened, but, it's just.
So the question is, how safe are
Right, so, a very good question. I don't think the proposal goes far as to regulate that. But, yeah, it's just to try to provide space for it. I would say that they do install it, that they install it to like a minimum standard, but I don't think I'm not sure that I can check it, I can get back to you on that.
So basically, where we're at is just deciding whether it can be done or not.
Right.
Just
But
opening the door.
right. So yeah, that's a good way to put
That's
it.
my understanding, yes.
Right. So, and I think that's also a good, a really comment to capture and make sure that it's in your letter balance that if that there should be more consideration given to higher standards of safety for the purchase of these, so that when they do install them, they install them to a high enough standard to be able to withstand hurricane force winds and all those things. It's a very, very good point.
Because insurance, the equipment is actually home insurance. We have regular calls, so you have a solar panels a year. They ask about the heights. That might be taken into consideration, okay, what the premiums don't look like.
I'm not sure if you actually been in our outreach to our team that developed these proposals actually talked to anyone in insurance.
I think that,
Doesn't sound like it. Comments on.
and they're not gonna tell you anything until something happens.
Exactly.
It's just like anything else. They're gonna say, well, we don't know until it occurs. And when it occurs, well, then we start charging. We'll let you know, later.
Okay, so what Nita told me previously is there's going to be a vote on this September 13th. Right? Is that?
Yes, that's what we came back in, well, the 20% back in June. There was when it's officially referred out, it's saying 60 days, but since this is not one of our typical public review processes, it just goes out to the community board. That's why you have a bit more time for the city planning commission. So this is that's good pressure with this. This is the pretty much I think last chance to be able to weigh in on this.
Okay, so we can vote in favor or against, but the important part, it's my understanding, is the comments, right? So we can say we like the idea of making the city more environment friendly, but here are the points that raise concern, which is what I've heard is basically the cost and who's going to pay for it, and issues with things like solar panels that may not be implemented in a way that looks safe. So, do we want to take a vote on this now? Does everybody feel they know enough in order to vote?
I thought we, no, we're not to take a vote. The only thing I would say is, or ask, is that when we share this with the full board, that we give them a timeline for comments, even if it's a day or two, so that we can add them to the list that we've already compiled here.
Okay,
Just say we get
no, I like that idea. you know, I don't know how practical it is, just,
You know, I know, but it's at least allowing them an opportunity to review and speak to it. Now, whether they do that or not is on them, but they had that opportunity.
well, I will have the office send a presentation out to the full board. So put a line in there saying, if you have feedback, please contact the committee. You know, I'm just not being overly optimistic about a flood of feedback. But, you know, we'll give it, give it a try.
Yeah, I think that, some committee members will have comments around solar and that, you know, that's what my feeling is, but I don't know if the rules.
Okay, so shall we vote?
General other comments.
I don't see any other comments from people on the WebEx? All quiet. Okay, so I guess we'll put it in the positive and say all in favor, all committee members in favor, say aye. If you're not in favor, say nay, and if you want to abstain, just abstain. So I move that we vote in favor of the carbon neutrality text amendments to create the opportunity for these 17 enhancements or changes to be available to building owners. So, okay, I'm going to vote aye, because as long as it's not mandatory, we're just saying, now you have the option, so my vote is aye.
Aye.
And Carmen? Carmen, can you still hear us?
I gotta get, okay. You asking me if I approve of the solar?
Well, of the whole package of 17,
Of the 17? Oh,
proposed changes, which, again, we've confirmed, with our representative from city planning, will not mandate any of these changes. It will simply enable building owners to implement them if they choose.
you know, I was thinking, if there is a power shortage, I've always thought that we won't get affected of the power shortage. I'm not sure. I have to talk to my daughter because she's the one that is, you know, on top of all this stuff. But I was thinking myself, if there is a power shortage, what happens with the people that have the solar? Will we continue to have lights? It's just a question. Can you ask Nate?
I'm not sure, actually, yeah. I can look into that for you, but,
Yeah, I think that's a little bit technical for this particular forum, Carmen, I think.
Anyway, it's okay. The proposals is okay with me.
Okay,
so maybe the company that installed your solar panels, maybe they can answer that too. They probably know more than I do on it.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I hope they know more than I do.
yeah, right. Okay, so the ayes have it. So you've got our blessing and, on the proposals. And, I'll have to get this letter written before the 13th, and I'll see, you know, if I have any other feedback. before it's gotta go out. So it has to be there before the 13th or on the 13th?
But probably before it would be better, like end of the day on the 13th. I think they go the morning.
Oh,
So
Does it
could
need
be on the safe side.
Yes, it's always good on the safe side. Does it need to be addressed to a particular person or just commission for city planning?
I have an example I could share with you. It's and also we ideally would like it submitted through our online Zap portal. I'm not sure if you ever used that before for our private applications, but you can also send it to me.
That sounds easier. Staff.
It's for private applications that come through our agency. For the Euler process that Chris can weigh in on. Maybe Georgia just knows a bit more, but if you want to step back, just
Meeting that way, definitely.
yeah.
Okay, so this portion of the meeting is over. Thank you very much, Nate, for going through this presentation for a third time. I'm sure, you'd like to move on to something else at some point eventually. So I found it very useful. I hope everyone else did too. So yeah, that's it for the part we need you for.
I just say one last thing. And thank you so much for your time and your very thoughtful questions on this. And I know when I first presented this back in June that there was a lot of information coming at you at once and why needed a bit more time to answer all of your questions, which I'm happy to do. But like I said, there's two more text amendments that are coming. They're not so environmental related. So I don't think this committee would probably want to weigh in on them. But I'll bring the information
I need
along.
you to look for this guy named Nate.
The
I don't know.
question.
I wrote him a letter about solar panels.
Braxton, can you mute yourself, please?
Thank you.
There's the next zoning text amendment that will be coming will be zoning for economic opportunity. So this is one that's trying to encourage to like remove those zoning barriers to help small businesses, especially post-COVID. That's another big one that's going to have a lot of proposals just like this one. But this is we're still a bit early on that process. The proposals haven't been finalized for that one yet, and there's an information session next week. I encourage everyone, everyone here, everyone on the board to sit in on that session to learn more about those proposals, so that you can start that a little bit more information as we go on. I'll be back and forth you all to talk about that one, maybe next month or maybe November. So that was soon. And then there's a third text amendment for housing opportunity. I'll definitely share any upcoming information sessions on that. So that you're all in the loop and you all have enough information for your concern.
As long as the office gets it, they send it out to the whole board distribution list. If there's, an online or in-person information session.
Yep.
So that's where we get most of our information.
Yep, so I'll forward you the information for the session next week. It's Tuesday, I believe, in the evening. It'll be a virtual session, and it'll talk about weird thing.
It'll be a lot more, sorry.
It's called zoning for economic opportunity.
So that means you get money to open businesses.
So like the same thing. There's no funding attached to it, but it's like let's get rid of the zoning barriers that prevent small businesses from thriving.
So if you're gonna marry, and then give us money.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to talk to you about bike lanes.
Get rid of them. Oh, yes.
It's 1.12. Oh, yeah, it's a huge barrier to economic development because people can't unload their goods.
They were all head crowd.
I went to Chicago, and you know, they're known for their L structures. So clean, so neat, no bike lane, one-way traffic, or the other way, two-way. I lived here one life, and I just said, it looks a mess. It really looks a mess out here. Just personally, just saying. They need to.
Well, that's also my colleague and too.
Yes.
But he was just out there, I saw it. So there was somebody parked it already.
Car, you have buses, and you have bike, and then you got these L structured pillows that stays in the way. This much stuff.
Yes. Okay, well, thank you, Nate, for the update. Yes, we'll get back to you with that letter before the 13th.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. So committee members, I did have a second item on the agenda, which we can either do tonight or put off if everybody's had enough for today. Just other ideas for programs we want to organize. So should we chat a little bit about that? At least throw some ideas around? Or is everybody just done?
Well, you know where I am.
Okay, so
You just throw them around, we have to like, just,
what kind is
to take with us.
yeah. Okay, safe home. No, I wanted to put them out there and have everybody give them some thought and then come back with your feedback, because I wrote down the things on my mind, but that might not be everything. This is a collaborative effort, so I want to make sure that everyone's input is collected. So I'll just quickly throw them out there and type them up if that would be useful as notes for the committee. The anti-5G people have written to the office saying they want to meet with this committee. So I think we have to do that because they've asked a couple of times now. They're very anti-5G for a variety of reasons. At some point, we need to follow up on what the city is doing in terms of rodent control, and are the people in our community doing everything they can to control the pests. Usually I get updates on virtual trainings from Rat Academy, and I send them to Ursula to send out to local distribution list. So that, anybody who has an issue can do the training. It's 2 hours long. And at first I thought, what can they possibly say about rats for 2 hours? But you'd be amazed. I mean, it really was an excellent training. I've had some interest from Montefiore about doing a lead poisoning prevention workshop. We did one years ago, probably close to 10 years now. And they're telling me that still thousands of kids in the Bronx test positive for elevated levels still. So it might be time to just have a workshop and have a presenter, talk about all the different ways kids can be contaminated. It's not just that they sit around eating paint chips. There are other ways that kids can be exposed. So for example, if a member of the household is in construction and they took apart a house that had lead in it, and they come home, hug the kid, they could have effectively transferred the lead to the child. So there are a couple of other things that go on. Sometimes it's an amulet from another country that's made of lead and they can choose on it. So there are a couple of aspects to it. And at some point, we just need to get the word out that curbside composting is going to be back in effect March 2024. And I have some questions about that too, about if they're going to resume giving people the cans. For a while, they stopped. I would get their own cans. I don't know how that's going to support compliance. So, anything I missed right now that I can put on a running list and feedback to the whole group?
I'd like to do a volunteer, sort of session for Fresh Food Initiative and community gardens. So there's a school in the South Bronx that already has a rooftop. And there are other places like Incandescent and Salt that are local community gardens, and they also do combination programs with programs like the house. Whereas providing not just food available to anyone, but fresh food alternatives.
Okay, I'm sorry, but what did you call it again? A workshop on
Fresh Food Initiative.
fresh food, okay.
We have a question in the chat who's asking about who should speak, and maybe you want to introduce yourself. Well, a lot of these folks on the screen are board members. They're just kind of.
Hi, I'm Sonia. My last name is Davis Lopez, but you can call me E. It makes life a whole lot easier. Basically, not basically, we got sworn in less than 48 hours ago. So I'm one of the new members, but I've been in the Bronx over 30-something years and living in this area over 30-something years, working with this board over 15, 20 years vicariously through different programs, doing things like this, service learning, providing volunteer opportunities and job opportunities for people that actually make a tangible changes in our community. Really happy to be here.
Okay, any other input from other committee members or anybody? Everybody can have input. If you see a need for education or action on a particular environment-related topic?
So I have a question.
Sure.
Takes care of, when the city puts down the trees and they leave the land, sorry, just leave, plants or greenway for the community who's responsible to take care of it. So when they have, how they have plants, like when they do a new sidewalk or if they put in a building, they have like just the area, just green, poof, it's not their property, like the residents or whoever's property. The city is there, who's responsible for taking care of the plants and the gardening and?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the property owner.
And again, it is, if they put a tree in front of your house, you're responsible for that. But that little
Pretty petty.
So let's get my next part two question. So when the trees starts to grow and they get big, they uplift the sidewalk. Who's responsible for the sidewalk now?
So now the city is responsible, but we were on a list for 6 years to get it done. They just finally did it this year. But so if those flagstones, we had those slate flagstones, if they're pushed up and become a tripping hazard, it's the homeowner.
that's what I was getting ready to say.
That's the triple sword, because they didn't ask you first of all.
Don't want to darn it tree.
Ask me what kind of tree I want to plant in front of my property, but then you have a lot of vacant land, so my question is, like, who's responsible for like some of the vacant lands? For example, I think it's 212, is it 212 Street, like, Bronxwood Avenue? Like that property here on the right side, it's been vacant. It's just the overmass of just bushes. Who's responsible? And that whole block, like 212, I guess it's, well, let's say it's like 212 Street, and it comes like an arrow. Before you get to Bronxwood, it's like 212 to 13. Like, who's responsible to take care of all that land space? It's a mess.
So what you can do is go on the Department of Finance website and see if you can find an owner. And then contact, you know,
That same plot of land has come up before in general board meetings.
It's a mess.
yes, I mean, so much of it comes back on the home or getting meetings and both out of their homes.
You know, I have, I'm right here on Baldwin and 229, and on the corner of 230th Street. Houses there are attached, you know, our house, there's two buildings attached. Well, one of them became in disrepair. The city burned the scaffold to repair. So now you have, but the house was, it's a corner house, not bricks. Say it that way, because they fenced in where the fire was, where the house was. Yeah, fence in out there, and grass and stuff and everything. What's been happening recently because of complaining, because people had started, you know, people are dogs, they're pigs sometimes. They began throwing trash. So what's happening now is that the sanitation department comes, they clean up the trash, and they cut the grass. So I say that to say, maybe that's the same one thing. Somebody complains about it.
Complaining about
They've been doing it on a regular basis. In fact, they cut the grass out there on that outside. They did it twice in the course of the summer. Wow. It's like.
Must have done real well.
Because, you know, originally, when this worked out, myself and my neighbor, we was cleaning the garbage and because it used to be really, you know, to see one person and the next person see, oh, we can throw it in. You know, so that's what began happening. So I must have sat out 6 bags, you know, it's all garbage there. Started, you know, this lady across the street, she must have called 100 times, so they started coming. It's just, you know, you see the sanitation costs, you know, stop them and say this over there, you know, and say it this way because it's part of our problem. We complain to each other, you know, and say nothing to the powers that be. We have to learn to say something to the powers that be, because otherwise nothing's going to happen. You can't do it. You got to tell who can do it, you know, and if both you and I are complaining, well, I'm going to tell you, look, they call us number. You know, if we all call, then maybe something to get done.
Well, it's really important to keep calling 311 because that data can be queried. So, and I've played around with it too. It's called New York City Open Data. You can go in there and say, I want to see all the complaints in Community Board 12 for this type of problem. And people look at those statistics. So as long as it's in there, at least it can be reported on. Okay, any other ideas you'd like to throw out there? Anybody?
Yes, I'd like to speak.
Sure.
Okay. My name is Diane Mayen from Tiemann Avenue, and we had a concern. For the month of August, Con Ed had basically closed off our block, and they were working on the what do you call that? The transformers, the transmitters. They were working on the poles on our street, and we had no notification. Now, when they first came on the block in the beginning of August, they were on the even side of the street. They had put up orange cones, and they were working on that side, and we were still able to get in and out of our block. We're on the west side of Hammersley, which is the dead end. So that's the only way of egress is to go out from Tiemann to Hammersley. Then, as the days went on, they started working on both sides of the street. So I had questioned one of the men because I had an appointment and I had to meet my Uber on Hammersley because they just blocked off the street. And I said, why weren't we notified? And the Con Ed person said, well, that's not our department to notify you. I said, okay. So then I made some phone calls, and I was told that DOT is supposed to notify the community when a street is going to be closed off. We had no knowledge of this whatsoever. So for the whole month of August, we were captive. Sometimes we had to sit in our cars and wait until like around 4 p.m. when they finished before we could even bring our cars back on the street. The other big concern was last Monday, the Monday before Labor Day, we got up and there were empty food boxes, Chinese food, chicken, you name it, laying all over our street. And the most disgusting thing was there were empty bottles of, empty water bottles that were filled with urine because the workers, yes, the workers were sleeping in their cars, taking up the limited car parking that we have on the street because they had to watch the equipment that was being left out. Now, at that point, I called 311, and I did file a complaint. Of course, they gave me the runaround because they said it's not Con Ed. You have to go through DOT. I have the number. No one ever got back to me because the woman said, well, they'll get back to you within 3 to 4 weeks, okay? There was a supervisor out there. One of my neighbors spoke to the supervisor, and he said that the whatever the project they were working on, it would have ended the end of the month, which would have been like the 31st of August. However, they did come back on Friday, and they were still doing work. Our concern in terms of just the whole idea that we were not notified, number one. Number two, the garbage that was left behind by the Con Ed workers having to sleep over at night, and the filling the water bottles with their urine was just totally disgusting.
Yeah.
And I don't understand Con Ed. If they had these men and women working and they knew they had to be here overnight, they should have provided some kind of a urinal for them so that they could find a better way of disposing of that than leaving it in water bottles on our street, which meant that the people, because now if we didn't clean it up, sanitation is going to give us a fine. So I'm just saying going forward. Oh, and then I spoke to someone else, and they said, oh, well, the community board notifies you. But then someone else corrected me and said, no, it's not the community board, it's DOT. I don't know who dropped the ball, but that's what happened on Tiemann for the month of August.
Well, if we're notified, then the information is sent out to the board and community distribution list. I see sometimes things coming through about disruptions to transportation, traffic changes on a highway. So if we know about it, it will go out. The best thing to do in general is first file the complaint with 311 and then call the office and give Ursula or George the ticket number, because they have escalation contacts, but they need that number first.
Okay, I will do that. I will definitely do that. But going forward, Usually they put up papers along, you know, the different fences or gates or whatever, and you can read it, and so you can prepare. We had no preparation at all, and it wasn't like it was a one day or a week. They were here the entire month of August.
Yes, usually they are pretty good about putting, they staple them to the announcements to the telephone poles. So it's surprising, they would just not do that at all. But, okay, well, I'm sorry you had to deal with that. But the next time, if you see something like that going on, just get that ticket number and the office will intercede on your behalf.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, feedback before we close? Okay, well, so we're done at 8:27 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Let me remember to turn off. the
Good night.
recording.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, it's their bad.